Hey, this is Zach Log the Great, and I am here tonight with Travis
Hello.
and with a staring gargoyle named Nate.
Hey, everybody.
And we are getting together tonight to talk about Robert W. Service's poem, The Ordinary Man. Before we get to the poem, I did want, and Travis has volunteered to read for us tonight. Before we get to the poem, I want to remind you, if you like my work, if you would like to support this channel, you can do that via subscribestar.com/Zachlog-the-great. Having said that, and the link is going to be in the show description. Having said that, I'm going to get the poem up on the screen, and we are going to turn this over, and we are going to turn this over to Travis for the moment. So, when you guys are ready.
All right. The Ordinary Man by Robert W. Service. If you and I should chance to meet, I guess you wouldn't care. I'm sure you'd pass me in the street as if I wasn't there. You'd never look me in the face, my modest mug to scan, because I'm just a commonplace and ordinary man. But then it may be you're too. Let's try that again. But then it may be you are, too, a guy of every day who does the job he's told to do and takes the wife his pay, who makes a home and kids his care and works with pick or pen. Why, pal, I guess we're just a pair of ordinary men. We plug away and make no fuss, our feats are never crowned, and yet it's common coves like us who make the world go round. And as we steer a steady course by God's predestined plan, hats off to that almighty force, the ordinary man.
Okay, and clear that off the screen. So, Nate, as the non-reader tonight, would you like to step in with your thoughts first? I could.
I really appreciate ordinary people. I don't know. On the one hand, I'm not a towering inferno of achievement. On the other hand, I've always been a weirdo. They're like, "Hey, kid, you're gifted. Good job." And I was like, "What does that mean?" They're like, "It means you're going to miss art class for the rest of time." It's like, "Oh, cool." But can I miss music instead? I'd rather get to hit things with a paintbrush than have to sit there and sing. But no, I've never felt particularly ordinary, I guess. But at the same time, I mean, I haven't really ever distinguished myself by that much. So I guess I am one too. So it helps to appreciate it. But I just like the simple dignity of it. Like, hey, I'm gonna live my life as best I can, with as much honor as I can muster, with as much dignity as I can carry in my two hands, and hopefully occasionally a couple of quarters to rub together in my pocket. And whether I get rich or die trying, I'm just going to do what I can do every day. And there is a beauty in that. It's not something you're going to see, great tales written of. I mean, there might not be that much to tell. But still a wonderful thing. And it is a thing that people do every day. And he's right. It's what makes the world go around. I don't think I have a lot of depth to find in this poem, but I like it. It's like cinnamon toast. It's nice. It's good.
Well, it's simple and
not particularly complex. Just good.
It's straightforward. But something I thought of with the first stanza, where he's kind of like talking to this mystery person walking by, you'd never look me in the face. It's like all the people you pass every day that you don't know, that if you sat down, and had a cup of coffee or a beer with them, you'd find things in common with them. Like there's, this ordinary man, and you don't know who that ordinary man is whenever he's walking past you. He's just some bloke walking by. But but if you do meet, you realize, oh yeah, we're just, we're two ordinary men. You find something in common.
Yeah, it's I like Nate am kind of two minds or two hearts about this one, I guess you could say. Because like at one level I'm, definitely with service, and it's like we need people who to just go out and do the job, okay? Maybe it's not a fun job, maybe it's not an exciting job, it's almost certainly not a glamorous job, but we need people to go out there and build things. And by the way, once they've been built, they need to be maintained and repaired, and we need people to do that too. And you've got to respect, and you've got to have some level of honor for those people, or eventually you're not going to have those people, and then everything falls apart. By the way, America 2024, nice to meet you. And it's and at the same time, kind of like Nate said, in some ways I don't identify as I don't quite feel like an ordinary man. For better or for worse, I have a a an IQ rather above average. Haven't gotten an opportunity to do that much with it. But at the same time, well, and that is one interesting thing about this. One thing about this poem, if you look at the second stanza, who does the job he's told to do and takes the wife his pay, who makes a home and kids his care, and works with pick or pen. And in this context, he's putting like a writer, like he is in the same kind of class, ordinary Joe, just doing his job as a miner. And I think that's good. And I think at one level, well, kind of like I said, at one level, our society makes a lot of entertainers and people who put themselves on a screen, like I do. Don't get that much attention, but and we have almost entirely neglected these ordinary men in a way that wasn't possible, I don't think, before mass media. Before probably television, you couldn't have celebrity the way we do. And then before the internet, you couldn't have this weird creature of like a niche celebrity the way we do. And everybody wants to be that, including me, guilty as charged. But the extent of that is healthy levels. And there was one I saw a while ago. I can't remember the exact wording, which is a pity because it was said perfectly. But like, guys, we need construction men and plumbers and electricians. Not TikTokers and podcasters. and some guy and some woman, please men, get out there and do these things, and some man replied, women, we need wives and mothers, not OnlyFans whores.
Not
And
only what?
not OnlyFans whores. If you don't know what that is, good for you. It is probably good. Congratulations, Travis. You probably, in some respects, have a better life than I know from reputation, not from any kind of experience, but I know but it's basically geez. Anyway,
You're saying I should
it
look it up
basically
later.
No. Or I guess it's basically decentralizing strip clubs via the internet. Every woman who has a webcam can turn herself into a stripper, or other activities, and it's on the whole about as poisonous to society as you possibly could be, without actually poisoning people. Hello, Dr. Fauci.
I think physical poison is actually less poisonous to society. Anyway, so the ordinary man.
Yes.
To get back to the poem, right now. So I don't know. I always thought I'd be doing something else with my life. Never really figured I would have taken the road I've gone to get to the place I am. But I find myself very much the workaday kind of guy. I mean, I work for myself now, which is great. So I have that advantage, but I'm not doing anything that I expected to be doing. That's one thing. I mean, I didn't expect to have 6 sons, but doing a lot of parenting these days. But like I said, I always expected I was going to be a writer or an inventor or somebody out there, somebody who you'd be seeing a lot. And it turned out no, it's not what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be changing oil for a living, delivering pizza, doing a hitch in the military, cutting grass, working on machines, just the most down-to-earth, practical stuff ever. And, I feel blessed because I don't have to worry about the problems of being a great man with young children. Do I go home and be with them, or do I put the needs of whatever thing first? I'm like, no, I've made my wife and kids my care, just like, our poet says. And I have found a lot of satisfaction in that. There's a lot of satisfaction with just seeing, concrete results. It's like, I did a thing today. I did that thing today. That broken machine works now. That says that used to not be painted. It is now. There used to be some lights there. Now they're ceiling fans. Oops. I like it. I'll save my deep thoughts and ruminations for, this poor YouTube audience.
There is, I've done and am doing at the moment, pretty common, low level, work with your hands, or, and I've also done some more office or academic type work. And one distinct advantage, for instance, to waiting tables. If you're waiting tables and someone orders a burger and fries, and you bring them a burger and fries, they got that burger and fries. There is something was concretely accomplished, and it was done. Whereas in more office or intellectual type work, like you do something and it goes out there, and did you affect any change? Like, did anything happen because of your work, or were you just kind of shuffling papers on a desk and the world would be pretty much the same if you weren't doing it? And it's that is a distinct advantage, I think, to the more physical, direct, basic labor kind of jobs. Psychologically, and I don't know if either of you have read. Last summer, I listened to Ted Kaczynski's what is it? Industrial Society and Its Future. And he kind of talks about that sense of futility in the modern world. And I'm like, yeah, that's if you haven't read it, it's kind of for those of you who don't know, Ted Kaczynski is also known as the Unabomber. Sent out a series of letter bombs, basically to draw, as far as I can tell, to draw attention to this manifesto of his. And I read it, or listened to it rather, and you would like it. In circumstances like that, you would kind of like it to be the ravings of a lunatic, but it's not. He actually makes a lot of sense, and he's talking about real things. I'm like, oh no.
His premises are decent. Like, he starts off making pretty good sense, and then he's like, so we should kill people about it. And you're like, somewhere along the way, you carried a one you shouldn't have there, Uncle Ted. Just
yeah.
Like,
Practically basic.
Your arguments about industrial society and its effects, it's like you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. And the way to go forward is to blow it all up. Pump the brakes, big boy. Calm down.
If I recall correctly, relevant to his personal actions involving blowing disassembling various people,
Those are very
what
good
he said, what was or wasn't?
Was not.
Oh, okay.
Bombs were failures.
I've never looked.
Most of his bombs were failures, and most of his victims survived.
But if I understand,
I got to talk about Ted Kaczynski, and my first thought was I'd have done a lot better.
Let me show you how a letter bomber is supposed to work, my friend.
Like, I'll tell you what.
But so another thing,
and you'll be on a list of government monitoration.
I am on lists. I've been on lists for some time. I accept that. I can't do anything about it in our current system. So, what was I? So,
Ted Kaczynski, the ordinary man.
But okay, so what I was gonna
I can't hear you.
We lost him. No sounds. The government muted your mic, man. Big brother came and pressed the mute button.
Are you there, Sean?
Quick, Travis, let's make threats against Joe Biden. I'm going to ask him a real question.
Okay, am I back?
All right,
yeah.
You're back.
Okay.
So
technical difficulties. As Matt Christensen is fond of saying, this show is held together with duct tape. And we just applied a little bit more. Anyway,
So
I don't know if either of you... Go.
No, go ahead. All right. My thought, when I read the poem, I mean, something that came to mind was I remember going up to New York City to do this run, this 5K run that some firefighter, he was off duty, pulled his gear out, and he ran through the tunnel and went over and ended up dying. But anyhow, they do this run. But the Twin Towers were being rebuilt at that time, and it was just the foundation. It was huge. It was starting, And I remember my friends saying, "How can they do that? Like, how can they do this building? Like, it just blew his mind." And I was like, "Well, every man does his job," which is sort of what it says here in the poem. Whether your job is swinging the pick or running the backhoe, or you're the architect, and the engineer. Like, you're just a man doing his job, and when you connect all those jobs together, you end up with a building. It's pretty impressive. So.
Yeah, and the other part of that is if everyone involved, or enough of the people involved, take the job seriously and care about getting it right. Which is also kind of, it's not said here, but it's kind of implied that, like, you do your work and you put real effort into it and you care about the result. That's the kind of person he's talking about. But then you do the job sloppily, you don't care about it, and you get, and things can fall apart. And the other part of that, and kind of returning to a critique of modern society, is the way things work today. Everything is, bureaucratized, and I've heard the phrase, the managerial state, and then because of the way everything is organized, there's this horrible thing that happens that no one person can ever be held responsible. Okay? And when you have people who make decisions but are not responsible for the outcome, are not held responsible for the outcomes, you will reliably get pretty horrible outcomes very quickly. It may not happen like immediately, but it's going to be only a couple of years. And that is like our entire society now, or at least the highest level of society are organized that way, where people who are making these decisions about how everything is organized, plane falls apart in the sky. Is anyone sent to prison? Is anyone executed? No.
Yeah, the whistleblower.
Well, not executed in government sense, but yes. It's Boeing. I don't know anything. Okay, I don't know anything. Boeing, Hillary Clinton. I also don't know anything.
Oh my God. Do you know what Donald Trump tweeted 2 days before somebody tried to shoot him?
Okay.
That he was very critical of Boeing. It was like, basically, he tweeted something being like, "No, I'm not super happy with Boeing. I don't think they're doing a good job."
Well,
throw a little zest on that one.
That's another theory.
You know that they heard that there was a Boeing, like the Boeing social media guy was like, no. But no, like, I agree with this whole bureaucratization thing. The minute it becomes a committee in charge of everything, you're done. Like, I think the reason that Tesla and SpaceX and all of Elon Musk's companies have been as successful as they have been is because there's one person at the top. You know, the buck does stop, and it stops with, you know, a mad billionaire. And so, you know, your freaking mad scientist autist up there at the top is like, I want these things to happen. All this whole structure I've built exists to make them happen. Now, if you get just a bunch of, you know, freaking pants-suited harpies and, you know, freaking business cucks up there, it's going to fall apart. They don't have the drive. They don't have the initiative. But when it's one guy making the decisions, then yeah, things get done for better or worse. Sometimes it's a horrible, horrible mistake, but you make progress. You know, and so I think that is one of the things you need to have. I liked working for the AC company I worked for because we were really small. I saw the boss every day. Like I got my orders pretty much directly from him, you know, any given day. And so it's like, okay, he'd pop out and be like, all right, Nate, you're starting here, then I'm gonna need you to do this and this. Cool. And they'd be like, all right, install guys, y'all are going here. Y'all are gonna be using these two systems. Pick that up. I need you to go get this stuff from the parts house. Let's do it. And we'd go do it. And things worked out really well because there wasn't this whole cloudy nebula of crap above us. We could go, a decision needs to be made that's happening above my level. Hey, one guy in charge, make the decision on your own hook. Thanks. Cool. We're done here. I also kind of miss working on the installs because, you know, it's just a lot of good teamwork. Me and the head installer had a really good, you know, mesh. Like we could really work together, you know, and so we'd get a lot of stuff done. Just, it'd be like, you know, all right, man, look, we got these things to do. All right, how about you start on this stuff? I'm going to go take care of this other stuff that normally you would have to do yourself, but I can do. It's going to save us like 2 hours, you know, and then when I'm done doing this, I'll go join you, but you should be done with this other stuff, right? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay. You know, and so then we can get together, do sort of like all the stuff that just needs a lot of hands, knock all that out. We'll be done by 3:00. And it was great. And I miss that sometimes because now I'm like, hey, you do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then we'll get back together, and both of us are going to go do the other thing. So I don't know, man. I miss work. I miss sometimes, you know, having a group of ordinary men to work with. Oh.
So, I don't know if either of you are familiar with this. There's, in fact, I'd bet not. But Vox Day has talked about this. He called about different types of men and how we interact. He calls it the socio-sexual hierarchy. That is, there are social aspects and there are also sexual aspects and how, you know, women respond to different, you know, parts of this. And, you know, he obviously, you know, there's what he calls alpha, you know, the guy at the top who's making the decisions. And you know, people who have, you know, natural leadership. For instance, to return to current events, someone who, you know, misses getting his head blown off by about that much, and his immediate instinct, once the danger has apparently passed, is to stand up, put his fist up, and, you know, yell, fight. That's alpha. That's natural leader. Okay? We actually do need them. There's other parts. One of the things he talks about is Delta, who is basically most men. Okay? Most men, if you don't know where you fall, odds are pretty good you fall in under, you know, Delta. And that is, you know, a guy who, you know, isn't a natural leader, also isn't a almost instinctive underminer of authority, but the guy who just, you know, does his job, you know, wants some kind of leadership, regular guy, takes care of what he's supposed to do, proud of his competence. And, you know, And, like I said, he says this is most guys. And he also says it is a shame that these guys don't get more respect because, like the poem says, the ordinary man, what makes everything run? And this poem is for that. This poem is to that. And I think that's a good thing. And I think, having respect, having some degree of honor for an ordinary guy who does his job, takes care of his family, is a good thing. And it's I don't know. I've run out of steam on that one.
You probably got a leak, which means you need an ordinary man to come and fix the lines for you. Your boiler might not get your burners checked.
Well, a leak is better than a clog.
Probably. But what I'll say is that, I've seen enough that was done with no pride put into the work that I gotta say it's a necessity. Like, there are times I come up and I'm like, I would be working on a system and be like, whoever installed this is a dickhead. I'm like, whoever has been whoever put this in here really did not care. Like, they're just like, what the hell? Doesn't matter. It'll work. I'm not going to have to work on it. And just I'm talking like the ass level done on this, not even approaching half. This is like a 3/8 ass job. I'm just like, I want to find who did this and slap the hell out of them, because you do not deserve what you were paid. But then there's other times when I rock up on something, I'm like, oh my. Oh, I'm like, God bless you, sir. It's like, you and your scythe have long gone from this field, but I like you. Like, you're a partner in my success to this day because you did good work. And so, yeah, and honestly, might not be a guy I'd get along with in person, but I can respect you for what you have done. I guess that's one of the things that men have an advantage in, is that if we have to work with a guy, like, we can respect somebody who does good work. Whatever else they do. Like, even if we would rather not ever see them again, we can be like, we will remember that we respect his work.
Right.
I worked with a pipe fitting crew as a helper for a while. And at first they didn't know what to make of me, because they were like, yeah, you're one of the partner's cousin. You're just kind of here making up space on the team. They're probably paying you too much. And they weren't saying this to me, but they're kind of like, I could see everybody was watching. And for the first couple of days, I'm trying to get my feet under me and figure out what I'm supposed to do, because I've never done this before. And then I started figuring out, and I could kind of get ahead of things. By the end of it, I'm turning wrenches, pulling bolts, doing all the stuff that, most everybody else is doing. And they gave me one of the best compliments I've had in my working life, which is these guys I've worked with for, like 28 days of nights. They're like, didn't know about you at first, but you'd make a fitter. I was like, thanks, guys. This place is horrible. I don't want to be here anymore. Have a good life. I was like, I really do want to get back to what I'm used to, but I won't forget you guys, and this was good. And like I said, these guys, there's actually a guy from high school I ran into. He was doing days for the same company, and he was like, what are you doing here? I was like, it's a weird life, Gary. But, I never thought I'd end up doing that. And there weren't the kind of people I ever thought I'd be working with. But I got to admit, those boys work hard. And so I have a lot more respect for people in that line of work. And anytime I can sit down with a man and, we'll get talking about stuff and it's like, yeah, I did this. It's like, I did this thing. I didn't outsource it. I didn't do whatever. I just needed to take care of it, so I did. That's always awesome. I had a story I wanted told, so I didn't just wish somebody would tell it. I told it.
I actually have seen something like that because what is it? I don't know if I've shown either. I've shown you some. Like I fiddle around and I make memes a lot. Image, interesting image, humorous or ironic text to go with it. Throw it on the internet and make people laugh and maybe make a point as well. And a few times I've gotten a suggestion from someone, hey, why don't you do one like this? And they basically lay out the idea. And I'm like, it's not that complicated. You told me the idea. Why aren't you doing it? I'm sorry, that was very much tangent, but
that is one of the things that, industrial society, an effect it's had on us, is that people don't suspect what they're capable of. It was a really interesting, I've seen it a million times. I'm like, that is actually not as hard as I thought it was. Like having a job in, just a hands-on technical field has given me the confidence to do a lot of other things I didn't have the confidence to do before. I'm like, okay, well, hold on. If I know how this works, this is similar. So I'm like, that's cool. And then that's not too different from this. And all of a sudden I'm like, when did I get all these skills? What happened? And it's just because I never thought about it as being as simple as it is, because there's a trade for that. There's certifications you can get to do these things. That doesn't mean you can't learn them if you don't.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's in the Stormlight Archive. First or second book, probably the first book. I don't remember. Anyway, there's this king, and he has this very interesting curse where some days he's incredibly brilliant, and other days he's pretty much a dumbass. And other days, he's about the average. And he's talking to one of his advisors, and he's like, "Hey," they're like, "You tested as being pretty average, pretty much an average man today, and yet, you're having some pretty good insights, and you're being very capable. I think the tests are flawed." And he's like, "No, I think the problem is you severely underestimate the capabilities of the average person." The thing is, though, the average person tends to underestimate themselves too. So you people, you average people out there, all of you, probably more handsome. You can do more than you think you can. You can accomplish more than you think you can. You are more skilled and more capable than you suspect because you've been told that you should leave it to the people who know better. They only got to be the people that know better by doing it. So do it.
And it's like you don't know what you're capable of unless you try. And if you never try, there are all kinds of things which you could turn out to be pretty darn good at that you will never know about. And it's yeah.
And you have
at the same time,
now, there's Indian guys that'll tell you exactly how to do it. Step by step. 90% of the world is 99% of the world is, can you follow instructions? You can read or listen, follow instructions, do what it says. You're there. It's easy.
Yeah. You do have to.
There are some people who even at that level are still gonna have problems. I've dealt with them. It's a thing.
Yeah, but that's why we have college.
That's why we have what?
That's why we have politics, to give them something to do.
But you do have to be prepared to fail too, for mistakes and to come across, oh, this didn't go right, so then you got to go back. And I mean, it takes a bit of persistence when you start trying to learn new things too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, eventually you're gonna fry the motor. That's all there is to it. But them's the brakes, bud.
The risk of failure is the price of success.
So to come back to the poem, I thought the last set of lines was interesting. As we steer a steady course by God's predestined plan. Hats off to that almighty force, the ordinary man, which is funny because it's pointing from God, and you think the force is pointing back towards God, but then he says the ordinary man. So I thought that was an interesting little play. Plus, then there's always the question of whether you think God's, is it a predestined plan or are we figuring it out? That sort of concept.
Yeah, I don't know how much in this Robert Service is committing to a particular theology, and how much he's just saying, like, look, how much it's just basically a statement of faith that God is there and is watching over us and is guiding us. I don't think in this context trying to extract a theological statement from this is necessarily the right method of interpretation. But definitely to the extent that he's saying, by the way, God is there and he is paying attention and he is watching over us. I think you can take that much away pretty definitely. Well, and the other thing, like, it's it is interesting, and one thing I've talked about a little bit in a video a while ago, the like God could have, like, anything we do that needs to be done, that is a good thing, God could have done it himself. God could have put it in place, could have, organized the world so that thing already was there. But he didn't, partly because, the world is fallen, but also partly because he wants us to contribute. He wants us to be a part of it. We aren't just here as an audience. We're here as part of it. And he wants us to take an active part in it. And what we do or don't do matters. And so the ordinary man who does or does not do what he should do matters in God's plan, even if it's a predestined plan. And I think that's a pretty important thing to keep in mind too.
I mean, you think about you get enough men together, what they can do. The Mississippi River has wanted to subsume the Atchafalaya for 80 or 90 years now, I think. But because a bunch of welders and engineers got together and, did some fancy work up around the old river control structure, it can't. That's amazing. We turned one of the greatest rivers in creation, aside from its desired channel, and said, no, you keep going the way that's convenient for us, even though, we're slinging all of our sediment into an underwater canyon instead of regenerating the coast, and so the rest of the state is washing away. Anyway, we do great things. Sometimes we don't understand what's going to come of them. I mean, for all their faults, which are manifold, the Chinese communists managed to build a dam so big that it has held back enough water to change the rotation speed of the Earth. That's nuts. Can't wait till that thing collapses. But anyway, no, I really don't want that to happen. A lot of poor bastards being killed. But anyway, but yeah, just
Okay. Well,
get enough ordinary men together. You get enough just, workaday guys doing their job. And like you said, great structures rise. Amazing things are done. And so, yeah, honestly, when the ordinary man gets the bit in his teeth, there's no stopping it. Eras of history change on awakening the ordinary man. And so I think that's one of the things that's made our country great is that, it's supposed to be piloted by, those rising stars, those luminaries, but ultimately it's made in service of the ordinary man, and just really used to be anyway, that, basically the idea of the government is to kind of keep things moving and get out of the way. Let the ordinary man do his ordinary thing and make us all rich. Started to get away from that, and now we have a whole lot of fun.
okay. Well, I think I covered most of what I wanted to say. Nate, any last thoughts from you tonight?
No, it's beer o'clock.
And Travis, how about you? Any last thoughts on the ordinary man?
No, I don't really have any last thoughts either.
Or Ted Kaczynski, who probably was not an ordinary man, for better or worse. Okay. Well, thank you both for joining me tonight. Thank you to the audience for listening. I hope you found something interesting, and God be with you.